Can you hear me? Can you see me? Am I
I
there?
can
Am I
hear
present?
you. I can see you.
Here.
Welcome back.
God, awesome. This is what we call technical difficulties because
Listen,
when you go live, and sometimes it's user error. Excuse me, the user who's doing it and they're messing up. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. So I do apologize. But you know what? Maybe this was your time to shine, Liz. You was like, hey, you was out there. But you said you heard me, right?
I could hear you. You were like Casper. You were there, but you weren't.
Ah,
So it was
okay, okay.
fascinating. Yes, but
But
you know
anywho,
what?
you know
We've
how
been
we
gone a
are.
couple weeks.
You know
Yeah,
what?
we
At the
rusty.
end of
That's
the
okay.
day, welcome, welcome, welcome
Yes.
to another episode of Unfiltered and Intentional. Like I said, you can clearly see technical difficulties happen all the time. There isn't any rainstorms or anything, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just blame it on. Let me just blame it on cash. That might work. Yeah,
Is
this
it is it
this
Cash's
fault,
fault?
right?
No,
Anything
it's still across the
happens and blame
ocean.
it on my husband.
We'll blame it on some other
Yeah,
person
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah. But
overseas.
with
Yeah. Cash, I'm gonna let you off the hook tonight.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like I literally could see you, but I couldn't hear you. It was just so weird. But anywho, um lots of laughs before we start the show, but definitely a serious topic to get serious about.
Mhm.
But before all that, Liz, can you let everybody know what to do?
Hey guys, so we are unfiltered and intentional. We are here for you. You guys are here for us. So we already got comments coming in. I know we said we're gonna keep it kind of it's actually a more serious topic tonight, so I'm gonna kind of get through all the good evenings. We got Z and Toya talking about good evening, good Sunday, good evening. Cash said thank you, Liz, because I let him off the hook. It's all love, Cash. And then Humble Lion said, hey y'all. So
Hey.
I'm gonna kick it to Kia for current events.
Yeah, thank you once again. Like if you turned in immediately, literally, I wasn't talking. You just heard my voice. Liz said I was like Casper. I'm like, I know I'm light bright, but still, don't be putting me out there like that, Jesus. But anyway, yeah, this is a serious topic, so let me just go ahead and get to current events. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe on
Mm-hmm.
the YouTube page and on Facebook. We definitely have these serious and fun conversations. But going into current events with Kia, as I always do, we already know we missed last week. We weren't here, so for those who did celebrate Easter and those things, 'cause not everybody celebrates or Easter or all that behind that. There was a lot of mass shootings that happened, and we don't even want to stick on to that topic, but yes, definitely for those families who have lost someone, we're very sorry that these things, this epidemic is still happening, and this is definitely something we have to take care of or get some type of control on that. Also, you might have seen it on TMZ because TMZ is always breaking that news. Mike Tyson beat the shit out of somebody on the airplane. Now, here's the kicker. Mike Tyson throwing them blows. I thought it taught the guy a lesson. Like, don't mess with people, But at the end of the day, we don't know if the guy's taking any legal action towards it. Stay in your lane.
He didn't have him arrested, so I
Stay in your
guess.
lane, I suppose.
Mm.
Um, Cuba Gooding Jr. and this kind of ties into the topic. We're going to be talking about sexual assault, but this happens to be the month of sexual assault awareness. So you'll definitely be hearing us talk about that and how you can reach out and if you have questions and concerns and comments in that way. But Cuba Gooding Jr., the actor that we do know, has been around since the 90s. He actually just got pled guilty to forcibly touching a woman at a bar. um, there was a couple of other women that came out too saying that he was just groping them and doing things. Even though he pled guilty and they're going to be doing the sentencing and all that, he's actually going to be hosting a strip club party shortly. So it was kind of weird. Like you just came from court from forcibly, and he admitted to it. Like I did it. So it wasn't like, hey, we got a black man on the ropes. You know what I'm saying? Like these women are out his after his money. No, he said, yeah, I did it. And he's hosting a strip club party. That's kind of weird.
I
And then
mean, it also says his career has kind of gone a long way. So,
yeah. And then moving on, like I said, we're sticking to the topic of sexual assault. Trey Songz, groping a lady. It's interesting because once again, you have another singer, another black man who's being accused of sexual assault, but the woman came out. And when the woman came out, she just basically was like, "I have the video," and she has the video of Trey Songz grabbing her boobs, and he's repeats it 4 times: "Titties in the open, titties in the open." So he's kind of like boom boom, and she's like, because they were so how to set up the scene, they're in a picture together, just kind of like, "Hey, I'm with a celebrity," and then he does the groping of the breast, and he says, "Titties in the open." So she's like, shocked because she can't believe she just got groped. And she released that video because, of course, you have these situations where women are lying, right? You just want that celebrity's money. You're just after him and and all the fortune he has. But she's like, no, I just wanted a simple picture, and he grabbed, my breast. So she kind of put that out there. So yeah, that kind of ties into current events because this is actually just what's happening right now. This is still under investigation, of course, but once again, this does tie in. How do you feel about what I just mentioned to you? I'm just really, really curious about those two topics. We're going to kind of dive into the statistics and all this stuff just to kind of educate the audience about sexual assault and how often it happens. But just in a curiosity, how do you feel about what I just said to you, Liz, about the two
I
actors?
mean, it's clearly aggravating, frustrating. Just as women, we still sitting around fighting for people to just respect us and to not feel that they have a right to our bodies, among other things, and things like that. I will say I was having a conversation earlier today with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about tonight's topic being sexual assault and everything else, and what's considered sexual assault,
Mm.
right? Because there's sexual harassment, there's disrespect, there's sexual assault, there's the criminal level, there's like
Mm-hmm.
felony level. I mean, like, so what draws the line?
I'm
And
glad you asked that question because
uh-huh,
you and I were talking prior to the show, and I was like, "Ooh, I got to answer for that one," and I wanted to actually get that legal answer, right? Because
mhm,
I'm glad the question's asked because we may do something, our homeboy may do something. Shoot, men get sexually assaulted too, right? But you don't really hear about it that much.
right.
We may know people that do the act and we're like, oh, that's not harassment. That's not assault. What is that? So I found it. Sexual assault refers to the sexual contact or behavior, hint, hint, behavior that occurs without explicit consent of the victim. So that means a lot of different things, right? So we're talking about assault or rape, sodomization. Those are the actual three main things that are really, really bad, right? Because I'm putting my physical body and now I am touching you, penetration, groping. It could be with the
Mhm,
hands, it could be with any type of objects and these things, and rape. Then you have sexual harassment. Um, the sexual harassment piece is really interesting because I've seen a piece one time because you had it where if you're walking down the street, Liz, and somebody's catcalling you, and they're like,
mhm,
"Oh, you hot mama, you sexy thing." And you turn around and
mhm,
you see that it's some type of ugly fugly. You're gonna be like, "Oh my God, he's harassing me. He's this." Get back,
mhm,
push back. But if you seen that fine hot chocolate guy, you know what I'm saying,
mhm.
or whatever you feel is attractive, saying you look so gorgeous and ooh, would you consider that harassment? Because you start before you seen the
That's a
person's
good
face.
question.
So
Yeah. Okay.
you just aggravate, like, oh my God, who's calling me? Like, I can't believe you over here, cat calling me. And then you turn around and then your
Like,
whole
ooh.
and
Right.
then you also have stalking,
Hmm.
indecent exposure. So, people who are flashing and doing these things, degrading sexual imagery. How many people have took shots of
Mm.
their bodies or different things, and then now it's plastered on social media. People made photocopies, whatever have you. Voyeurism. Why are you
Hmm.
looking at me? Um, Cyber harassment. How many people now are sliding in people's DMs? I
Hmm.
told your nasty ass one more time, I do not like you. And you keep hitting me up. Oh yeah, sexy mama. Or even the women. I'm not gonna play the gender role today, even though
Hmm.
statistically more women do get hurt
Mm-hmm.
because men get it too, right? Especially if you
Right.
got money. If you have money, that's definitely something. Um, then you also have trafficking. Trafficking is terrible. Florida, unfortunately, is the number one state for sex trafficking crimes. We're in Florida. The number one event that takes place normally in the beginning of February, mid February, is the Super Bowl, and that's when you'll have most of your sex trafficking crimes. A lot of people will commute to Florida, kind of just to say, "Hey, let's pick up, her or this one for good times." And then you have sexual exploitation. So these are all the different things that comprise sexual abuse. Um, it's a traumatizing situation, Liz. It's very, very sad that we're going through it. Do you think this will ever stop in reference to how much? And I pose this question to the audience, and you too, Liz. Can you think of anyone that has not been sexually assaulted or harassed? I cannot think of one woman that I know that has not been in that situation to a degree. Not all the way that they got raped, but in
Right.
reference to something that crossed that line.
Like you said, we kind of touched base on this earlier, kind of pre-show planning, and no, I've actually given it additional thought, and I can't think of a single woman that's ever not been in an uncomfortable sexual situation. Um, I'd go a step further and say that just about everybody I know has experienced, catcalling and all of that. Yes, but I'm talking about actually being molested, raped, or I hate to say legitimately abused, but I mean at a different level. Just about every single woman that I can speak to, not that we sit around in circles, what I mean, discussing, but typically it comes about because something triggering is happening. And it might not be something that's obvious to you, and now you feel like you need to explain it and different things like that. It is the reason they're going to a bigger, but it probably will never go away is because we never talk about it either.
Mm.
So I think there's that.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to know that, and then, like I said, I do challenge the audience. Can you literally sit and think of any woman that hasn't been in that predicament? It's really heartbreaking to know, from friends to loved ones to associates. I cannot think of one. I can't say like, hey, I have 5 girlfriends over here that have never
Yeah,
faced
never
this.
experienced,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
I don't know, or the family members here, and it's unfortunate. And like I said, of course, men face it a little bit differently, right? But I'm curious to also hear about the men too, because there are situations where men are like, "Yo, back up," right? There's some
Right.
crazy chick out
This
there,
is true. Yeah.
crazy things, and men are like, and it's crazy. It's unfortunate for men because they're put in a situation that these things don't happen to them. So even if, I mean, and they don't have that openness or even push to like talk about it. Like if a man is being sexually harassed, is he running to some type of open forum like, "Hey guys, support me"? Like I
No,
don't even know that
not usually. If anything, I think that becomes kind of the butt of a joke, right? For a guy to say so. Um, I'm gonna toss this out there, and this is me genuinely asking. I'm genuinely asking, right?
either. Yeah.
Can you be in a situation where sex is consensual and still there's a sexual abuse?
Yes.
For
I'm
example, and I'm not talking about the yes, 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 no. I'm not talking about that, right? That's a whole different thing. I'm saying that if you're with somebody and they have given consent for sex, right, with protection, and they slip it off during without your knowledge or your consent, for whatever their reasons
wow.
are. Is that a
Wow.
different type of sexual abuse? Or women that put holes in condoms, in order to entrap men
That
and
is
things like that.
violation.
That
That would be
seems like
violation
a
too.
sexual abuse that we
No,
don't
no,
really.
that's violation too, and I'm glad you mentioned that
Yeah,
because right now, if we consent to have, we're consenting to have intercourse, and under these terms, we're going to have intercourse, right?
right.
We're gonna use protection. We're going to do it this way, whatever, whatever, and then all of a sudden, you go ahead and start doing stuff with the
Yeah,
condom.
that also seems like a
Mhm.
violation. That would be to me, that's like that's a different type of sexual abuse that I don't think we ever talk about either. Just generally speaking.
Wow. I never even thought about that. And here's the kicker, and that goes off into a whole nother subject. I know we talked about child support last time we were on, but now if that woman did go ahead and, impregnate herself or whatever the case may be, now we're talking
Hmm.
about, hey, I want you to get rid of that child. Well, no, my body, I can't get rid of it. But you stole literally my semen, like wow. That does touch on a whole nother level. And it's
Hmm.
like we've become a degenerate society.
Ooh.
We have become so far removed. Everything is condoning sexual activities, sexual being promiscuous, but even in a
Mm.
non-consensual way. We grew up in a hip hop culture, and I grew up listening to rap music where they're like, "Hey, slip that girl that Mickey, go ahead, go get that, this, that, and the third." Try to play a little bit rough with her because women play hard to get, right? You kind of wear them down. You got to keep giving them drinks, sliding them drinks that way so she can kind of get a little bit more loose. So then she
Hmm.
can be like, "Oh yeah, 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 I'm interested." So Specs had gave a this is I'm so sorry, Specs. Wow.
Right. He said, I've had several men in my life come up to me and just grab my penis.
Wow. That is wow. That I'm so
Yeah,
sorry to hear that. And
me
so
too.
with in saying that, when that situation like that happens, are you immediately like punching them? Are you screaming at them? Are you like, oh my, like because that's
Have you ever
violation?
thought to call the police? Like,
Yeah,
what's,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Because that's just like somebody you're walking down the street, Liz, and somebody just gropes you. That would be in the same category of someone groping you and just, grabbing your body parts. So, like, what do you do in that situation? I would love to hear a little bit more from that. Here goes another comment.
right? Cash is chiming in. You have times where a woman is alone with a man and he is putting on the full court press for 2 hours straight and not trying to leave or let you leave, so you just give in. That's consent, but not really.
I totally agree. I mean, imagine right now, and like I said, this this
Hmm.
this conversation we're having, I'm not dropping any names, right? Because conversations that people have are confidential, right? They're not wanted for the whole world to know. But I know of situations where an individual's like, I did not want to have sex with this other individual. Like he would not leave. He raised his voice. He got aggressive. He kept wearing me out. I try to go into the room. He blocks me. Right. That's literally. I know, like they said, for in domestic violence situations, if you're trying to leave the house and get out, and I block you in, that's a form of kidnapping because I will
Hmm.
not let you leave those premises. But in the same breath, the guy is putting it on you. Like he won't stop. Where you going? What you doing? What is this? And then a woman ends up giving in. So she gave in, but under so much pressure,
That's
right?
under duress, right?
So literally, are you really getting consent? And then she may not even come forth to anybody because she's like, well, everybody knew that them two were kind of kicking it anyway, right? Everyone knows that Liz is with Greg and this and then she, how she is. She's just playing hard to get. Liz is like, so you're kind of not even feeling sorry. You're not even trying to empathize with her. So wow, I never even thought about that neither. Specs
Hmm.
came back with an
Like
answer.
said that he would punch him in the face. So,
Yeah, and you know what? The interesting thing with that one, and I would always tell women to learn self defense. Have your mace, have your taser, your stun gun, your anything. Because for you, yes, simple punch in the face is good, a 1, 2, 3. But what happens if that person's stronger than you? What happens when it's at work?
right,
It's your boss. You
right.
need this job. Let me tell you a personal story about me real quick. So working at a uh I remember working at a place and I was really, really good friends or good co-workers with this one individual. I thought he was so cool. He would bring coffee to all the ladies. He drove like a sports car, really cool guy, flashy from New York and everything. And he always did magic tricks. Like he'd be like, "Hey guys, I got a magic trick for you." You know what I'm saying? He'll make some scarf disappear, or he'll be like, "Hey, I got a quarter behind your ear." Just those type of silly things,
Hmm.
and everybody loved him. Like he was like the superstar at the office. And I'll never forget one time I went to the office And he says to me, "Hey, you want to see a magic trick? I could do levitation." I'm like, "Okay." Like I love magic, right? So he stands by the corner and he does something like in the corner of the door and it looks like he's levitating. I'm like, "Okay, you about to stop your day job and become a magician." He's like, "I got one more trick for you." And I'm like, "Okay." He pulls out his cell phone and shows me his penis. And I was like, now this is not wanted at all. When I told immediately the job, they was looking at me like, "What's the problem?" And I'm like, "The problem is I just saw this man's penis and I didn't want to." I was kind of blackballed. I was talked about. And you know what's so funny though? I ended up leaving that job, but I remember telling the story at another establishment, and the group of women that I told sat there and laughed. And they was like, "You got to see that magic trick." And I was shocked because I was so hurt that that individual did that. And now I'm telling the sisters, right? And telling the homegirls, "Hey, let me tell you my story about sexual harassment." And they laughed and they said, "Oh, you didn't like that magic trick? I know you wanted to see that surprise." And I was like, wow. So this is the mindset of our women. I'm telling you something that really did hurt me. When I went to work,
But you
I
left
don't
your
care.
job, your livelihood, how you pay your
Yeah,
bills, you
I
left,
just
and it
want to
was
see
still
penises.
humorous
And
to
here's
the
the
next person.
exactly. And it's crazy because they're looking at me like, "What's wrong? Was it big? Well, what was this?" Like, "No, ho, bitch." I'm sorry, I'm cursing, but you know what I mean. It got me really, really upset because you took something that was so serious. You could clearly see it because we're having a conversation about sexual harassment and you minimized it. So when you have individuals like that do things like that, does it make a person want to start telling more? Does it make a person feel like their stories are valued?
Here we go. I've got one for you. Since we, talking personal stuff, right? I worked at a job and I was cool with one of the managers. He was not my manager, but he was a cool dude. He was a manager for another team, everything else. And he came back from lunch inebriated in some way, right? But to be honest with you, it was Friday, and at this particular job, we just had kind of loosey goosey Fridays, and it just kind of was what it was. And without any warning whatsoever, I was having some kind of technical issue. So he came and he stood behind me to like reach over and help me out with my computer real quick. And he's standing behind me, like, "Is it working now?" And before I could be like, "Oh yeah, thank you," I kid you not, because I'm seated and I'm lower, and he's standing and he's taller, and he straight up put his dick on my shoulder, like on my shoulder.
Wow.
And in that moment, you have to think this is somebody I thought I was cool with. He's not my direct supervisor. We were cool, you know what I mean? Everything else, I was kind of stunned, right? I told a dude what had just happened to me, and the response was kind of like, you know, that's just because he don't take you too seriously.
Wow. No
Like, you're not
respect.
somebody to be taken seriously. I thought
Wow.
that was strange, right? I ran it to by a homegirl of mine that also worked at a job, and it's just like, damn, you can't even say nothing because he's like one of the only black guys in management.
Wow. Wow. Well, and it's interesting that you said that because, and the show's only an hour. Sometimes we go a little bit over an hour, maybe do an
Mhm.
hour, the max an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. But we can literally go back and forth with stories, right?
We
Or
could.
we know somebody really close and be like, "Oh, what about
Mhm.
this? What about this?" But the hardest part in all that you told me was what she said, right? Man,
Like,
he's
it's my responsibility.
well, not even that. You can't say nothing. He's the only black manager. What you finna do? You got to stop this black man and his money. Damn, Liz.
Another one bringing them down.
Yeah. Or here's a scenario for my situation, for your situation. Well, why are you so friendly with him to begin with? What type of friendly were you? And I'm
Right.
like,
I mean,
what does
clearly
that
he was
even mean?
comfortable.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, if a man could go into the job, right? Talk about sports and talk about whatever they talk about, and they're like high fiving each other, and nobody's questioning it. If I was to talk about sports, not saying I was talking about sports, we were talking about
Mhm.
magic. I like magic shit, but we're talking about these little things and coffee and lattes. It's a cordial relationship at work. It's nothing more. We're not like, hey, let's go to lunch. We're not, hey, let's
Right.
call me after. It's a cordial thing. Why should somebody have to deal with penises
Well,
at
that
work?
was kind of literally the point of the one dude that, because he said to me, he goes, you always smiling, you always laughing, you just don't come across as somebody that's all that serious. Okay, so to be clear, if a woman's a bitch all the time, she's a bitch, right? If she's smiling all the time, you could just drop your dick on her shoulder. Like, what is?
Well, let's get into the comments and we're gonna go back to that.
Yeah, because they're rolling in, and so let's see. Cash says, I would always caution a woman not to be in a place alone with a guy if she does not intend to have sex with him.
You know what's interesting about that statement? Because on one end, I should be able to do anything a man can do without repercussions, right? I should be able to now of course I'm married, but let's just say I'm a single. I should be able to invite somebody over and that's exactly what it is. I'm invite you over, we're watching our show, maybe playing a board game, whatever the case may be, and you don't attack me, right? I should not be attacked because I invited you over.
Right.
But unfortunately, the stories that I have heard, the stories that I deal with, the stories that are in the past, it's like, wow, you was alone with that dude and this is what happened because maybe that dude overpowered you. Maybe you were in that vulnerable
Yeah,
situation.
I'm going to, and it doesn't happen often, but I'm going to all the way disagree with Cash because
Yeah.
I'm kind of where you're at. I would think nothing of, all right, Kia, it is Friday. We're getting off. Let's go have some drinks or whatever the case is. Like,
Yeah.
come on over.
Yeah.
The same way I would think nothing of it with a girlfriend, I would really think nothing of it with a guy friend. And I have plenty of guy friends. And to say that I can't be in a room alone with any of them, to me, is disparaging
I
to
think what
all
he's
their
meaning,
personalities. Like I mean,
I
I have a
totally agree
lot of
with you.
guy
No, no,
friends
no,
that
no,
I
no.
can get along with.
I totally agree with you. I think what he's saying is like that's a chance you take, right? And it's unfortunate. It's
Mm-mm.
unfortunate that we are put in situations where we can't have the same freedoms as men, right? We should be able to go in any room. We should be
I
able to
mean,
stand
how's
in
that any different than the, well, you had it coming because you wore that short skirt? How's that any different
Mm.
at all? Like I
Yeah.
don't,
Oh, I didn't think about it like that. That is
I
true. Just don't
don't
wear
get
that skirt, and you don't
what
have to worry about getting raped.
you know.
Yeah, that is true, Cash. Yeah, that is true. Thank you,
Talking about
Liz.
if you're gonna be with some skeevy guy or some person you do not know, that's one thing, right? But just to say that a woman can't be alone in a room with a guy because he may overpower her. I've had times where, I mean, like you said, I'm married now, right? So different scenario. But back in the day, I live in Florida now. I'm from Brooklyn, and if I was going home, my friends are guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
man.
I'm like, hey, I'm coming. I'm going to New York for the weekend or whatever the case. Hotels be mad expensive. Can I crash on your sofa? More than once, and every time it was okay. And none of those friends, I mean, because they were friends that I've known since childhood, none of them violated me, nor did I feel unsafe. And I'm talking about spending the night in their
No,
house.
you made a good point. You made a good point. It's the same as if that statement that he made is the same as if somebody said, "Well, you know what? I would caution any woman not to wear those mini skirts. You
Yeah,
wear the mini
caution a
skirts.
woman
You
not
go
to
to
be
the con.
alone. I don't
Yeah,
know. I can't do it.
exactly. You wear that mini skirt and you go to that sidewalk at 2 a.m. You know what it is. So here's another comment.
So let's see. Alice said, I think we have to sit down with our daughters the way we sit down with our sons to speak to them about police encounters. Talk to them and encourage them to communicate with us, their parents or others.
Well, I'm gonna say to you, Alistair, that that statement is very true. I think we need to be more candid and open. We're gonna also talk about um, domestic violence because domestic violence plays a key into that as well because a
Hmm.
lot of time so right now we teach her like I have a little one, right? And we were walking to get the mail and I was teaching her, okay, what happens if you see somebody and they're walking up to you like, hey, I have candy, you want to come in my car? She's like, no, I don't know you. Da, da. So we're teaching our young daughters and young sons about stranger danger. But what about if it's that person you know,
Hmm.
right? What about if they putting their hands on you and they saying, "Hey,
Right.
you say one more fucking word, that's your ass." I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and that has happened to me on numerous occasions when I was young. You want to say something. I'll never forget walking down the street in New York. That's why I think of New York is different. 103rd Street on Columbus Ave, walking down, My boyfriend is beating my ass. I'm talking about full blown. And people are watching. Ain't open their mouth and say a word. The cops was right there. My boyfriend said, "You say one word, I will fucking kill you." You know how many times I've almost died? Thank God. So yes, we need to encourage, but when you have that fear of God in you, and I always try to say that, and because this is about sexual assault, because that plays a role. I don't want to have sex with you, but yes, I will beat you into it, into submission. For men who have never faced that, you do not know what it is to have that fear in you. I'm talking about true fear. You know, I know you personally, Alistair, so you're a big guy. There's no one who's ever held a knife to your throat. There's no one who ever had threatened maybe a loved one of yours, like, hey, if you don't give me that right now, I swear to God.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So yes, we do need to encourage, and not all cases are the same, but when you have facing life or death, I'm gonna keep my mouth closed. And I know that shouldn't be that way, but at that moment in time, go ahead.
And I know we had the comments that we have to get to, but let's park it right there for an extra second, right? Because it's so interesting. Growing up, we were taught kind of what happens at home stays at home, which is
Yes.
probably the most dangerous thing that we could have been taught as
Oh
children.
God.
Let's be
Talk about
serious,
it.
right? For starters, most molestation happens in the house. It
Yes.
is it's usually that uncle, you know what I mean? That cousin, that
Crazy
whatever.
auntie. Aunt,
It's
crazy auntie. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
for single women, it's the boyfriends that come around. It happens in the house. It's
Yeah.
usually people inappropriately touching children are not usually strangers in the street. It's sad, but it's true, and we have to be real about it. And it's so weird because knowing that, and knowing that our parents, their parents, all knew that to be true. They taught us what happens at home stays at home, right?
We're
And
going.
then there were things that we just didn't talk about. That's just we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that uncle. We don't talk about that cousin. We just don't
Oh,
talk
you're
about it,
killing
right?
me.
You know, now, I'm going to flip that on its head a little bit because I like to think that our generation, we're the first generation that I can think of that we're just like, the hell with that. See something, say something, damn it. You know what I mean? If he touches you, let me know. I will fuck him up, right? That's kind of our approach. Then, so here we are. I think that the tide is turning. And so here comes the internet and social media. And, I've been talking to this guy for months online. He's not ashamed,
Ah,
because here we are, where, tell me if something goes wrong. I'm protecting you from everybody in the house, from everybody in the neighborhood. And, and we think we got it. We got all the boxes checked off, right? And then social media, right? And stranger danger out the window. Who you going out with this
stranger
weekend?
danger seems,
Girlfriends,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I,
yeah. And I encourage the youth to really sit down. What constitutes that you know someone? My grandmother, bless her heart,
friends,
she
right?
said you could be married to a man for 20 plus years and still not know your man totally. Because guess what?
Mm,
You don't deal with every issue during that time frame of marriage. Maybe on the 24th year, you realize that he had a gambling problem. Why? Because now you finally went to that casino and he just went crazy. You don't know. So if you
mm,
tell me that you've been talking to Bobby Smith, for 5 months through DMs or text messages. How the fuck do
hmm
you know what?
hmm
You said you flying. You said you called him at the park. What's happening?
Yeah.
He knows your social. Like so. No, you're absolutely
You
right. I
are.
agree with you, Alice.
What do you mean? And a lot of times, as I spend a lot of time with young ladies that are high school
Yeah,
age,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
With a lot of, I would say, 14 to 20-ish-year-olds, and they got this whole thing all messed up. Like they think absolutely nothing of, oh, I'm going out today, so I sent him my home address so he could pick me up.
When I tell you, and here's the thing, this show is called Unfiltered and Intentional, but I have to be unfiltered. Well, I have to be intentional not to be unfiltered because, these are other people's stories. But the stories that I had to deal with, it's like, what? You did what? Wait, someone knows where I live because you, what, huh?
What?
Wait, what?
I mean,
You
and
said
and
that
the
they
thing,
have my
what we
social.
get
What's
from
going
them when we are talking, because Alistair, thanks for opening up this can of worms, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah,
is,
yeah.
when you do speak to, I'm gonna call them all our daughters. They are collective daughters at this
Yes,
moment, right?
all of
Because
our
they need
children.
we, and it's not because mamas are falling short. It's just because we just need a
We need
village
that
at this
village,
point.
guys.
We
We
need
need
that
that
village, right?
village. Woo,
It's
don't go there with me.
the first thing that they say to me, oh, you're such a 20th century woman. or that's just not how we do things now. Like, things are different now.
We're gonna go
um
to those
I
comments.
seen
We
all
gotta
his
go.
pictures. It's
We
like
gotta
a
go to the
whole thing. It's
comments.
weird.
We gotta go to the comments. But I do love what you said that all of our daughters and our sons too. This is the time and age, guys, where I have never, ever, ever in my life felt that we collectively have to work in that village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. We need
Hmm.
to have these eyes open, the ears. Oh, you see something, you say something. All those things, because at the end of the day, don't wait until one of these kids end up dying or they take their
Hmm.
life because they're sitting on
Hmm.
shit. And then now it's
Right.
like, oh, I only if I seen a clue. Yes, yes, you seen a fucking clue. You seen a clue, right? Don't wait till the person dies or somebody's banged up or they can't have babies anymore or whatever because you're just waiting on it.
Yep.
So popcorn, passport, hey.
Hi. So, all right. Alice is on the horn tonight. He says we have to get our women to speak up. If they get away with it, they, meaning the guys that are assaulting them, what's to stop it from happening to
That
someone
is
else?
so true. It's true. I encourage any woman who's sitting on information, matter of fact, you've been sitting on it for 5 years. Please, please, please. I know sometimes it can be embarrassing. Maybe it's shameful. Maybe somebody's encouraged you not to say something, but say something because you don't know what's happening to the next sister, to the next fellow woman, to the next neighbor, maybe to the guy, because clearly things are happening to men as well. Say something, please.
So Cash trying to defend his honor here. He said, yeah, I was just saying it's risky, just like walking in a dark, unlit area. It's just a matter of best practices that women are the weaker sex and they really have to.
So, let me get my statistics. So, what I was going to say to that is there are three types of abuse. You have your childhood sexual abuse, which we do know that a lot of abuse in general stems from that, like you said, Liz, that childhood abuse. And then we have domestic violence, which whole like that date rape, right? Oh, could that really happen to me? Because yes, you can. And then
Hmm.
you have sexual violence. The number one thing that a woman said on her wish list that she can do when they took the survey was to be able to walk down the street at 2, 3 in the morning with not worrying about somebody harassing her. That is something that men have a privilege of doing. Now, we are granted, and it's true, there are some men that do get harassed. There are some men, but right now, we have to be mindful of where we walk. And just like right now, if a black man was walking down in a nice suburban area,
That's where I was going with
three
it.
in the morning, right? At 3 in the
Right
morning, you
here.
got to be mindful that even though you should take that breath of air, you had a long work day, maybe you got into an argument with your girl. Somebody might be calling the cops. Why is Mr. Cash walking down the street with that hoodie on? He looks suspicious. And it's unfortunate that, and that's why I say that I feel like women have it worse because we have a double duty, right? We have
Sister.
double shit that we have to worry about. And then don't let us have kids. Now we got to worry about them as well. So it's really really bad. I hate the fact of using that word the weaker sex,
Hmm.
but we've been putting that cuz I promise you because I've been victimized so much in my past, that anger has built up that I would die. I would die in a new encounter because I would not want to be a victim anymore, right? And it really really pulls a toll on how women live their lives. I've talked to women, like I said, no spilling names. I've talked to a woman today, and they said that you know what, I'm fine. I came to the conclusion that I'm not going to ever. I'm going to be alone. I don't trust. I don't trust. I'm a grown woman, and I'm going to die alone because I do not trust men. I have been hurt that bad. I ran into women and say, you know what? It took me many many years to have sex again because I've been violated at such a young age. And it's like, wow, you're still living this and going with that daily routine of yours. And then you wonder why we have a lot of women out there that have these different problems, or men that have these different problems. Go
Hmm.
ahead, Liz.
So Toya says, yes, Kia, what Cash said is muddy because what if you in fact intend to have relations and he becomes extremely aggressive and overbearing? The female agreed in the beginning and the road got rough. You were told to stop midway, but he proceeds because he's in the moment. No, sorry, it's not acceptable.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cash said, if you really feel you can trust them, you can make that assessment, but there's still a risk to it and not something that should be done lightly. I'm going to go right back to what Kia was just saying, right? So that is literally the same as saying to a black family or a black man, you really shouldn't move into that neighborhood. You know what I mean? You really shouldn't send your kids to a school that's predominantly another race. You really shouldn't, like, we're just giving up rights now because, somebody might be evil in the world. We just to be safe. You know what I mean? I just won't
There's
live in
a
my
level. Well,
own.
I'll say this: there is a level. Like I said, once again, not saying any names. Someone that I know very close to me said that when they were growing up, there was a park that a whole bunch of girls used to hang out in. And there was two parks that they could go to. They could go to the one that nobody really went to, or they could go to the one that was like the hangout spot. But in this hangout spot, there was a group of girls that were there. Um, this individual goes to the park and they get um, beat down by nine different. I was 8 to 9 different people, and they come running home, and they're really really battered and everything. And the question posed to them, why did you go to that park if you know that there are girls sitting there waiting to destroy you, right? Slice your face up, cut you down, and you had another option to go to the other park. Why would you want to go to that park? And this is a young individual, so this is not somebody who's like 50 years old or whatever going to the park. And that individual ended up saying, because I have a right to. And for a very, very long time, that didn't make sense to me. Because I'm like, wait a second, if you know that this is the park that the girls are at, and then you could go to the other park and not get into the fight, why would you go to the park where you possibly could get jumped and dogged and beat? And that never sat well with me. But now I'm older because you have a fucking right to. I don't give a fuck if you was a
Black people used to
prostitute.
get beat up for going to the polls
I
to
don't
vote.
care if you are a prostitute. That is your job to sell your ass. Guess what? You do not have a right to get raped and beat and this and this. Yes means yes, no means no. That's it. And it's unfortunate. And like I said, Cash is my husband, guys. For those of you who don't know, it's very, very, very unfortunate that yes, there's a precautionary tale that we have to tell our daughters, we have to tell our sons, but we have that right. I have a right to hang out with whoever I want to hang out with without you violating me. I can wear whatever I want to wear without you violating me. And it's very, very sad that this is what we're going through still in 2022.
Expect each other, not by your mindset. If I should go somewhere, I should go and not have the fear of being harmed. I, I really believe that. So, but I also believe that you should be proactive about your safety.
Exactly. Self defense is very, very key, and
Mhm.
knowing how to take care of yourself.
So, I said, I also believe as a matter of best practice, women should have mace or a taser or something else handy with them for protection. Not to say that they're at fault, but women have to be cautious. I'm not going to argue with that one. So I also said, at the moment, yes, but when that moment's over, you need to say something. In that moment, I think here you were mentioning, in that moment, you don't want to say anything. One thing we haven't spoken about just yet tonight is the level of shame that the victim feels when they're sexually assaulted or raped or anything. For whatever reason, um, typically a victim won't say anything because they feel shame. They take some level of responsibility for it. They feel that they're going to be judged. They definitely don't expect anybody to understand. A lot of times, even in just a silly story I said earlier, the first thing that they were told was, well, you take yourself seriously. Somebody else is gonna say, well, you shouldn't have been with that guy by yourself. There's a lot of reasons that you feel like maybe if I wasn't wearing that outfit, maybe if I wasn't there, maybe if I, and you take it on as something that you personally did wrong, and that's the reason that you don't say anything. I mean, like ever, and again, a generation prior, it would have been the first thing they would have said, well, what were you wearing? Or it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Why were you out? If nothing, in my family, they say, trouble don't find you at home. Well, actually, it does. But furthermore, you know, I'm sorry, I'm on one tonight, y'all. I really
No,
am.
it's okay. It's a touchy
But
subject.
you know, but outside of that, if you're of age to be out and about and living your life, when do you lose the right to your personal safety and to your body? When is it okay for people to grope you and touch you? I mean, that would be like saying to the young woman, you said it was Trey Songz. I don't want to
Yes,
mess that up.
yes,
You know, hey, can I get your picture? That's not, hey, you can do whatever you want to me. That's, hey, can I get a picture with you?
yeah.
Like, those are two very different things, and you know, there's a level of shame that goes with that, which is why women just kind of shut up about it.
The highest rated sex crimes are women who are prostitutes or in that sex
Hmm.
industry, such as your porn stars and your sex workers and these different things. And the reason why, because you already have this aura of stench, right? Like, well, you're degrading yourself anyway, right? Well, so what woman is going to get on the pole, swing around, and have 1,000 people staring at them, da, da, da. So no one thinks highly of you anyway, Miss Stripper. So who's going to care if I go ahead and do these different things to you? No one's looking. When you see mass killers and those serial killers, they go for those women,
They
most
do
of
go
them.
for sex workers. They do.
No one's looking out for them. Who cares about Sandra? She's screwing men anytime. Who cares?
She has no morals. Why should I be worried
Yeah,
about her? You know, about her
who cares
decency.
about
You
her?
know, or right, right,
So
right.
and I think that when the actual incident happens, we have to have those open conversations. I was telling a lot of people I never experienced per se shame. I have been violated myself before, and the word shame, I've never experienced it. I've seen people say I feel ashamed because the way I was raised was you fight back by any means necessary. I don't care if you have to come in, and this is, I'm telling you, like I said, I'm not putting no names out there, but I my family, I'll say that, right? The family that I've been raised under, and I have a whole different, a big family. We gonna watch you. We're gonna find out what time you leave, you eat, you sleep, you're this and this, and we're gonna have that little schedule, and then we're gonna come and get you. We handle things from the streets. But unfortunately, you get older, right? And you're like, hey, there's a better way than handling things from the streets. You have to deal with the criminal justice system. And unfortunately, the criminal justice system is not always on the victim's side. They'll say things, they'll do things, and they will victimize the victim even more, which makes another person even more like, man, I don't want to say nothing. Like, fuck, I'm writing this whole statement about what this person did to me, and you just question me as why I was at the hotel or why I was in the movie theater. The hell? What are you saying to me? I don't want to write them. I'm not saying nothing. Oh, wait a second. There's a shortage on criminal investigators who even investigate sex crimes. So you said you won't even hear my case until a whole year from now? I'm not doing this. I got other stuff to do. I can't. Let's
Hmm.
not talk about
Or
it.
think about women in the military.
Ugh,
That's a whole.
that's a whole nother hour. And you can't even say anything. Or to church. How many cases have we had to deal with where church people are getting abused in the church? First of all, let me talk something about that. Woo! I'm not going to get too unfiltered, but I'm going to say this. A place where you should be able to have the most safest communion, the most restful, relieving the stress because of something that has happened to you, keeps the most craziest fucking secrets I have ever seen in my life. A whole full blown rapist can be sitting right next to you and you're not supposed to say nothing. Like, okay, so the rapist raped you yesterday, but because we don't want to dismember the church and maybe the rapist is related to the deacon,
Hmm. Hmm.
we're gonna sit here and act like this ain't the
Act like
rapist.
this didn't happen,
Wait,
right?
he's the rapist. You said I gotta do what with him on a Friday night? Like I just got violent. You said keep quiet. So that whole and like maybe because I wasn't brought up
Or
in the
even,
church,
I
it's
mean,
just
not
so
even the whole, you know, altar boy
all the Catholic church,
syndrome. Heaven forbid,
those
you know,
yeah,
and
yeah. Whew. I know. Let's just read. I know it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
so, thank you, Allison, for bringing a little levity to the
Yeah,
situation.
because it's so bad. It's
You
so
said
bad.
they online having a whole relationship in a week, married and divorced by the second week, but never met.
Alice
It's
over
a
here
whole
preaching.
different generation. Like, and you know,
He's
I get
preaching.
it. I get it. I get it. Every generation feels like the next generation's crazy. Every
That's
generation
true.
feels like the last generation is out of touch.
That's true.
But some shit is common sense. How the hell you in a relationship with somebody you've never met before?
First of all, common sense is not common, but go ahead.
I actually met somebody the other day. She had a whole dude paying her entire rent. Ain't never met him because they just about married. And I
Oh,
was like,
is virtual Punani's gonna give it? What is
I,
going on? Oh my god.
next comment. I'm done.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes.
Cash said, "Okay, I'm gonna stop mansplaining. Thank you, Cash. Appreciate you."
Yeah.
Toya said, "It's like the movie The Accused in 1988. Watching it as a young girl was an eye opener on how society victimized the victims, even your friends and family members.
Oh my
So
god.
sad."
And it's so crazy
Um,
because oh, go
the
ahead.
Devil's Advocate was in that same range too.
You know what's interesting about that statement that you made? Because right now, let's just take we were going to do a show about toxic females, right? And Jada Pickett, of course, had came into mind. And there's a court trial right now with Johnny Depp and his ex-wife, and just seeing these women who are just toxic. Like, matter of fact, borderline crazy. But
Borderline.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even though we're looking at it, when you pull back those layers, there's a layer. They have been abused before. They have been dealt with trauma. They have been having different things, and it makes
Hmm.
you kind of think. If I was a little girl and I had been exposed to maybe Uncle Louis touching me, I go to Mama. Mama doesn't say anything. She just clutches her pearls. Maybe Mama even says, "Well, I'm gonna have to think about this real hard because what did you do to entice Uncle Louis? You're always prancing around here with that little nightgown on."
Hmm.
Or you tell your friends or you tell your homegirl, and they're like, "Wait a second, who did what to you? You can't. You gonna say something? He's about to go to college for that scholarship. You're gonna ruin that scholarship."
That guy is way too powerful.
Oh yeah.
Way
You
too
know
powerful.
you
You'll
know what?
never win. You'll never win.
Oh, I got another one for you. Poor Fantasia. We know her as a singer. You should have been flirting with the boys anyway. All you did all school year, right, is go up and down, flirting with the guys, and you think somebody's gonna believe you. So you
Mm.
have all these different people. Don't forget about why you wearing that skirt and why you're this and why you that. That victim does not want to say a damn
Girl,
thing.
I've heard your lipstick was too red. I've heard
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, I've
Oh,
heard that
that's what
one.
you heard?
I've heard that one. Her lipstick was too red.
I used to work with I was in a relationship with my baby father, and I never forget I used to work with him, and I was like in the front office and he worked like in a stock room. And I remember my manager called me in the office and he said that you're gonna have to go home. And I said, "Well, why?" And he was like, "Because you had to take that skirt off and wear some pants." What I'm literally like, what did I do? He said, "Because you're wearing that skirt." Now, mind you, it was a regular denim skirt. It wasn't like no short mini thing. I'm at work, for God's sake. And he was like, "Because you're wearing that and we're in an environment with all men, it's a constant distraction when they have to walk up and get the orders. And guess who's fighting? To defend my honor, my baby father was fighting, because he may hear something." And I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's crazy the stuff that women have to go through just so they can. I left work and put pants on. Like, must be nice to wear whatever you want to wear. It's just, it's really, really crazy on what's going on. I want to read a couple of statistics before we wrap this up. We have our last words and we give you those hotline tips if you know of anyone who's being, in these situations. So, as you guys already know, it's a Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and definitely this is a great time to have this conversation. Um, and have those awkward conversations. Please, please, please do not wait until something bad happens and you lose somebody or something tragic happens and say, "Well, I only thought," because it literally, these are the statistics. Every black woman who reports rape, at least 15 black women do not report. 1 in 5 black women are survivors of rape. 1 in 4 black girls will be sexually abused before the age of 18. We have to start breaking these cycles. And this is just talking about black women. Every 6 seconds, 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. And we're just talking about all Americans now, not just breaking it down demographically. If we're breaking it down demographically, we are the ones with the least resources, guys,
Hmm.
right? We're strong black women. We're strong Latina women. Women of color, we can take it. Our culture promotes sexual misconduct. Our culture also promotes it as well, meaning like, hey, you better put that shit on the glass and make it twerk and do what it do. So it's something that has to be revamped from the inside. Like you made a good point, Liz. You talked about how the generation before is kind of keep your business inside. No, no, the fuck you don't. If somebody is abusing you and hurting you, say something. Say
Loudly
something.
scream from the
Hey,
mountaintops.
scream it, scream it, scream it. I'm gonna go ahead and put this information out here just right now. It's called RAIN, 1-800-656-4673, and their website is online.rain.org. And for you, those who don't know what RAIN stands for, is Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. And this number here is for anybody. Like I said, anybody that's facing it, please, please, please say something. Do not go silent. Do not listen to people that say go silent. If you see something, say something. And also for individuals who happen to be in a domestic violence situation, because one thing kind of triggers another thing, right? That number is 1-800-799-7233. I encourage women to have their different self protection, right? Spec said, hey, I'm gonna punch somebody in the face. If you could do it that way too, and strong enough, but just in a sense, make sure you have some type of form of protection. Have those candid conversations with individuals because the chains, the cycles have to be broken. I know Specs has something here.
He said he understands the scenario you just gave, but most times toxic people are just toxic. A lot of times toxicity is born out of trauma, though.
It,
I'm not excusing it away, right? But a lot of times it is born out of trauma. Um,
I want to say this before I give you the last words, if I may.
mhm.
On April the 27th, 2022, is called Denim Day. And what Denim Day is the protest why women get raped. What does that mean? So there's a story basically about how a young lady ends up getting in a taxi cab and she was on her way to a party. The taxi cab, of course, decides not to go to the destination, pulls off in a remote area and rapes the woman. In court, he states the reason why I raped her because she should have been wearing those tight pants, tight denim jeans, of course. So this actual day has been, made in remembrance of this woman. Of course, she ended up hurting her own self. She took her life. But with that being said, uh, April 27th is Denim Day, just an honor that you can wear whatever you want to wear and nobody has to mistreat you or abuse you. So definitely keep that in mind. And please, once again, say something. If you see somebody, if you hear something, please, please, please don't be like, oh, well, I just thought it was. No, be nosy. And that's the crazy thing before I give you the last word. People are so nosy, but when it comes to true trauma, they mind their business. Like, where the fuck does that come from? Like, I don't even understand that concept. Like, I will ask you everything about your business. Like, who you talking to,
Mhm.
Liz?
They know the
I
who,
see
the what,
you
the
need
why, the how,
yeah,
the
like, why you got
everything.
your hair?
Mhm.
Exactly. But when it comes to some real shit, you keeping quiet. Come on now. At the end of the day, go ahead because I could just go off on a whole tangent right there, but we're not gonna stop there. But go ahead. Last words with Liz.
We can. I mean, God, you said last words. I don't even know where to start on the last words. You know what I mean? But this topic, guys, it's a really really difficult topic for any of us to talk about. I know it wasn't easy for Kia to talk about. You guys don't have any idea how difficult it was for me to talk about it. A recurring theme all night long was you'd say something. You know what I mean? We're unfiltered and intentional. And I feel like the purpose of this show was always to share and to help our community grow and to learn. And I don't think anything does it better than personal experience. So without too many details, as a teenager, I did have somebody that actually, I guess, accosted me. If we're gonna say, we're gonna go with that way, and it could have gone really really south. I fought like hell, and I got loud, and I got them off of me. And so for years, I never acknowledged it as a rape because the actual penetration portion of it didn't happen, but it was definitely a violation. I wound up not wearing the clothes that I was supposed to be wearing; they were torn. You know, and a few other things. And I didn't say anything to anybody. That person was in a house with a minor that I found out later he'd been doing that to for years. Another minor that was younger than I was, you know, and so to find that out later, and I mean, I found it out later, you know what I mean? I felt like if I had just maybe called the police or gotten more people involved or said something or anything, I could have saved, you know, the next younger person that wasn't able to fight him off. I fought like hell, you know what I mean? And I feel like I got lucky. That could have been a way worse story. It could have gone someplace else completely, right? Unfortunately, it wasn't my only experience, you know, in life where I had to fight out of a situation that, you know, in one situation per cash, I shouldn't have been in that situation. I was, you know, I was where some people maybe felt I shouldn't have been with people, where some people felt I should not have been with, and I was outnumbered and I was outpowered and everything else. But I was loud as hell. Like you know what I mean. I will tell you that, and somebody else had to jump in and help me out, and I was able to get out of another situation and again somehow managed to miss the boat and still didn't say anything and didn't report the individuals involved or anything. And you know, like Kia said earlier in the show, you know, given being put in that same situation today, I want to believe truly with everything in me that it would be different. I mean, I honestly feel like somebody's leaving in a body bag, me or the next person.
Sadly,
But you know, you get older and you get wiser. But for anybody younger than us that's listening out there, you don't have to go through it to learn. You don't. You can actually just listen to us once in a while. It will not hurt you. I mean, stranger danger is not a new thing, and it's not a thing that's going to go away. If you do not know this person in person, you know people that know this person. If I mean, you know, you have a community that you came from for a reason, and online is not a freaking community. It is entertainment. You know those people no more than we know the people on the TV shows that we watch on the TV. You might have been watching that person for years. You do not know them. They're on a screen, right? So keep yourself safe. Be vocal in the moment, be vocal not in the moment. If you know something that's happening to somebody else, be vocal as hell about that shit too. Don't let it slide. A lot of sex trafficking is going on, and you know, back in the day, a part of sex trafficking, we used to just call it pimping. Like, you know, we've gotten very fancy and very kind of grown up with the verbiage that we're using. But honestly, if you know somebody that has a young girl that's turning tricks for them, or you know, forcing them into a situation, anything like that, that's a lot of the time what we're talking about when we talk about sex trafficking. If you're in high school with somebody that you see things just don't seem right, say something.
say
Say something.
something.
Say something loudly. You know what I mean? If it's a family member, if it's a friend, whoever it is, like the onus is on us women to look out for each other and to take care of each other. So again, not the easiest topic, not the most fun topic, but definitely a necessary one. I told you guys some things that I've never told anybody, you know, even without the detail. And you know, I'm grateful that I'm this many years old. You know what I mean? And I can look back at it now with a little wisdom. I wish I had that wisdom earlier on. um, I wish I wish I had a lot of things differently, you know what I mean, earlier on. But here and now, I'm here to ask you guys, please, let's look out for each other.
Yes.
But it's all love. Like, subscribe, and share. Especially this particular episode. Share it with another person, share it with a woman, share it with a young person.
Uh,
Put it out there.
I I actually have one thing to say. Once again, we do know that there are many, many women and men who lie about situations. Liars are going to come and go as the beginning of time to the end of times. We know that. But especially when people have evidence, especially when we're just needing some listening ears, believe survivors in victim blaming. Please, please, please. The victim blaming has to stop because that puts people in situations where they don't want to come forth. Ask for consent. I understand you might be in a hot, heavy situation and the girl was leading you on. Matter of fact, all day long, she's been giving you that eye and that wink, wink. And then all of a sudden, you know, she's kind of cold shoulder. Don't be like, well, let me see if I could get her a little loosey goosey by giving her these drinks and stuff. Don't put yourself in this situation. Our young guys, I know it's a lot of things happening out there, but don't find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time because you know the guys are doing it and you're like, hey, it's okay, you know. And respect people's boundaries.
mm,
Respect people's boundaries. I really, really can't come across more enough. I know you mentioned, and I mentioned it, we're both mentioning it. See something, say something. I know they say it all the time in New York City if you see a little bag on the airplane because they think terrorists are coming. My God, because at the end of the day, um, if somebody else that is going to get victimized that we care for and we love, it would just be so heartbreaking that now we're going to their memorial trying to remember.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
stuff is real. Like she said, please, please share this episode. The number once again for RAIN is 800-656-4673. And then, of course, if you know anybody that's going through domestic violence, definitely call 1-800-799-7233. Like and subscribe. We love you. April 27th, Denim Day. Wear your denim because at the end of the day, you should be able to wear the fuck you want to wear without getting harassed and raped. But at the end of the day, love you guys. Talk to you later.
Good night.
Bye.